If you got $1 million contractor and the guy's got 4 different products and services, and one of those products and services is losing 10, 15, 20%, and the other ones are profitable, literally you can get rid of one of those services, the one that's not making any money, and instantly you're going to actually be way more profitable with way less sales.
Until right now, this very moment, contractors have always been on their own, not as tradespeople, but being alone and knowing how to take their business to the next level. They call us working class, they call us blue collar. They say that we don't have the smarts to become the business owner that we're meant to be. That is such bullshit. You have the ability. You're more than any of that. The question really is, where do you get the insights that you need specific to contracting to systemize your business so you can get your profits to pay for your freedom? I'm Andrew Houston. I'm going to show you how to make more profits, how to get more control, how to get more freedom in the simplest, quickest way possible without any of that bullshit. Welcome to the No Bullshit Podcast for Contractors. Listen up, level up, and if you learn something, like the video, subscribe to the channel, change your business, change your life.
All right, rock stars, welcome to another No Bullshit Podcast for Contractors. That's all you contractors out there, business owners. I am beyond pumped today to have Anna, our financial coach, on. And why do you want to listen to this? Well, maybe you don't want to listen to this. So let's see. You want to listen to this if you want to make sure you're pricing your jobs profitably. Okay. If you want to get the insights on how to price your jobs profitably, that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we're not just going to be talking about, pie in the sky. Hey, you need to figure out this and figure out that. We're actually going to show you. All right. So if you're listening on the podcast and you're in the truck, that's totally cool. So we're going to be talking numbers and things of that nature. Don't get overwhelmed. We're going to be referencing how to leverage your P&L. We're going to be showing you guys where you can get a tool that's going to give you the ability to, walk through this step by step. But again, if you're interested in making sure you're pricing your jobs profitably, you want to listen to this podcast, okay? If you're not interested, don't listen to it. How's that? What do you think, Anna?
Let's get this done. Let's show them the magic of pricing profitably.
I love it. So look, guys, it really is the No Bullshit Podcast. I say that often because I'm very passionate and proud of this, okay? We're not just talking theory here. We're here to really give you guys the insights, the techniques, the tips, the golden nuggets that you can actually take and apply to your contracting business and improve it, okay? Our mission here at Profit for Contractors is super simple. Our job is to get your profits to pay for your freedom. That means the more profits you make, the more that you can put in the right systems, the more that you can afford to hire the right people, the more that you can get your profits to pay for that freedom, whether that's a dream house, a vacation house, taking trips, all the rest of that kind of stuff. So that's our main focus here at Profit for Contractors. And we do that with teaching you guys the principles, providing you guys the systems, the strategies, the tools. And today is no different than that. So let's get started, Anna. Cool?
Yes, let's get this done. Let's get it going.
Okay, love it. Okay, so listen, is this what we're about to cover off today? Is the topic of, pricing profitably? Does it really matter what trade you're in?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay, a couple more questions. Let's see. Does it matter where you're located?
No.
Does it matter your team size?
No.
Interesting. Is there any contractor, Anna, that this wouldn't apply to?
No. Any business. Business is business.
Totally. Absolutely. And it's true. It's true. This is probably one of those podcasts where, if you want to listen in and you're a business owner, you're not a contractor, that's totally cool. I mean, primarily we're, focusing on just the contractors, but you're absolutely right. These are principles. And before we get into this, guys, we're literally going to show you an example of how to price your jobs profitably. Okay. We're going to go through it step by step, how you can leverage your profit and loss statement. Some people refer to it as an income statement, but we're going to call it profit and loss. Hence, we're profit for contractors. We're not, income for contractors. Okay. And, what I want to say here is you guys can do this. Okay. I think one of the greatest challenges that we want to touch on in the next couple of minutes, and then we'll get into actually showing you guys how to do it, is the power of making data-driven decisions. So Anna, can you talk to that a little bit, the importance about making data-driven decisions?
Your numbers don't lie. And when we use data, we can be confident that when we're presenting something, that it's accurate, that you've taken everything into consideration. It helps you know your profitability.
Right.
The numbers are the numbers. We can't finesse them. Your costs, what we incur, that's the data. And if you don't pay attention to them, are we picking daisies or are we just picking numbers out of the sky?
Totally. Okay, so guys, listen, all you owners, I'm talking to you, Mr. Contractor. If you are not using your starting off with just the, we're gonna go into the basics here, and then we'll elaborate on it. This first, what the next steps are. If you are not using your profit and loss statement, okay, Anna, is it possible that somebody can figure out how to price their jobs profitably if they're not using their financials?
No. I don't know the picture.
Okay, well, Anna, what about the guy sitting down? And listen, everybody, this is some of my humor, sarcasm. If you don't like it, I can turn off the podcast, no problem. But what about the breakfast table? What about sitting down with a fellow contractor? And, like contractors hang with contractors. I still hang with contractors. And one guy says, hey, man, what do you put on your jobs? The guy says 30%. And the guy goes, oh, man, yeah, I put on 20. And then together they leave the breakfast table going, yeah, let's put 30% on all of our quotes together. Why doesn't that work?
Not all businesses operate equally. Everyone is set up differently. Everyone has different expenses and different overhead.
What's the danger of going about it that way?
You can undercharge and not cover your simple costs.
Mm-hmm. You know what the interesting thing is? And guys, I'm not blaming you. Look, if you've never been shown this, you don't know. All right. But at the end of this podcast, I am going to hold you and try and get you to hold yourself accountable that after this podcast, now there's no fucking excuses. There's no bullshit. You're going to be shown how to go and apply this. Okay. But look, I cannot stress this enough. If you are not using your profit and loss statement to determine how you price your jobs, you sure shit better listen to this podcast. Okay. If you are using your profit and loss statement, determine how you price your jobs, like what you put on your jobs, and you're not leveraging it to make data-driven decisions, you definitely want to listen to this podcast, okay? So that's who this is for. Guys, we are in business to make money, okay? We're not a charity, okay? I'm not putting anything against charities, but we're not a charity, okay? And if we don't make profit, what's the consequence?
We're not moving our business forward. We're not meeting our goals and our objectives. We're here to make money, but if you don't price it, we're not making money.
You got it. Okay, so let's get into this, and then we'll keep touching on some of these key principles. All right, so let me share my screen. Anna, tell me if you can see this. On the right-hand side is a profit and loss statement. Don't get overwhelmed by the numbers. We're going to walk through it step by step. On the left-hand side is this thing called the pricing for profits calculator. Okay. So the pricing for profits calculator, guys, is a tool, a free tool. Yes, a free tool that we've put together that honestly can change your business big time, especially when it comes to how you're going to price your jobs. Okay. What it does and how it goes hand in hand with the profit and loss statement is it's a guide. Okay. It's a step-by-step guide walking you through what we're going to be covering off today. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the tool, briefly walk through it, not the whole thing, and just go through it step by step and show you how you can gather the data, that i.e. the numbers that it references from your profit and loss statement, okay? So that you can actually go back to this podcast, pause it, rewind it as many times as you want, and actually work out these numbers for what you need to be pricing on your jobs moving forward. Is that right, Anna? Is that what we're going to do?
Yep, that's what we're doing.
All right. And look, Anna, you provide a great, you do this with, you go through, do a financial review way deeper than this with any of the new champion CEOs that come on board the Profit for Contractors. But this is one of the key areas that we touch on, okay? Because guys, let's face it, okay? And then I'll shut up, okay? As far as examples, if you price your freaking job not profitably, okay, you are screwed, okay, when you go to do the job. Okay, it's basically, in most cases, It's a legal binding document. When you go and price a job and you sign off saying, yes, I'm going to do this job for this amount, you can be held legally to that quote or to how you price that job. Okay. So pay close attention to this, because if you don't price your jobs properly, I don't give a shit how efficient your crews are. I don't care if you guys got a whole team of Gretzky's doing an amazing job as far as getting it done. You've set them up for failure before the job's even started. Okay, so let's get into this. So one of the things in the pricing for profits calculator, hey guys, is understanding this allows us to adjust our price on jobs, okay, when sales fluctuates. So we're going to touch on that briefly. Adjust overhead costs and maximize how we can be competitive, and to set profit targets and budgets. Okay, so we're gonna touch on some of these as we go through this today. And look, guys, small little changes can have massive effects. You know, if you got $1 million contracting business and you just improve your bottom line by an extra 5% and an extra 5%, you know, throughout the year, guys, you're easily talking between $50,000 to $100,000 just in small changes. Okay, so here's sort of the process we're going to be touching on today. First, we've got to determine what our break-even margin is. Then we got to figure out what our break-even profit margin is. And then I'm going to share with you guys just, you know, we're going to touch on these aspects of the tool and how it can be used further. And by the way, everybody, this is part 1 of a part 2 series as far as financial review of pricing jobs profitably. So that's what we're going to do. Cool? Here we go, Anna, right? So the first step, guys, is determine your break-even margin. So we've actually made the profit and loss statement, Anna has, thank you, Anna, to match these numbers that are in here. So we're not going to, we're trying to reduce the confusion. So let's walk through this. So Anna, when we go to figure out our break-even margin, first of all, what is your break-even margin? What's this mean?
This break-even margin is how much you need to cover these overhead expenses. It's what you have to pay no matter how many jobs you have. So we need to figure out how much of our job needs to cover these expenses.
Okay, so let's bring this back to the listener. So now we're going to look at, okay, guys, yes, there's a couple of numbers in here. We're going to show you where we get these numbers. So if we go over here, you watch my mouse, everybody listening in, if you're driving in the truck, what we're looking at right now is what we have to gather from this profit and loss statement in order to figure out our break-even margin. And again, like Anna said, our break-even margin is what percentage do we need to put on our jobs? So we're covering, by the way, doesn't mean we're making a profit. It means we're breaking even. That means this is the percentage we need to put on our jobs so that we cover our expenses, actually a specific type of expenses. Correct, Anna?
Yes.
Okay. So the first part of the equation is basically, you know, the figure of your break-even margin is taking those expenses, your annual overhead expenses. We'll talk about those, like what those specifically are in a second, divided by your sales. Now, let's not get too confused with this. This is, guys, this is basic math. Every single one of you guys, I'm talking to you, Mr. Owner, you can figure this out. And if you think of this, we're looking at this as a percentage, i.e. like a ratio of, here's my expenses. What's the ratio of my expenses versus my sales, okay, as a percentage? And that percentage is going to tell us our break-even margin, okay? So, you know, in this case, the annual overhead expenses, Anna, is $250K. So tell us a little bit about, you know, here we are in the spreadsheet. We have $250K over here, all right? What defines annual overhead expenses?
These are the expenses you're going to have to pay no matter what you do in your business. So if you're spending advertising dollars,
right?
So we said here we're spending $10,000 in advertising. That doesn't matter how much sales you have. You still have to cover those bills. Your salary is a prime example. You have to pay yourself an annual salary. And to pay those salary and wages, you have to account for them in your pricing. Because no matter what, we have to pay them. We have to pay our taxes.
Totally.
Our
like our taxes, our telephone, guys, vehicle expenses, utilities, like guys, keeping the heat on, the lights on, like regardless of you getting a sale, understand this. We're looking at the expenses as Anna has stated that we need, basically think about the things that you need to do from an expense perspective to operate the business. Okay. I.e., I use the term as a prime example, to keep the lights on. Okay. To keep it running regardless of you getting a sale or not. If you got leases on trucks, you got salaries, you got to pay the people. These are all the things you've got to consider. Now, coming back to the front end of this podcast, this part 1 podcast, guys, it is indisputable. There is not one contractor that we could compare to another contractor. And we've done this with over 6,000 contractors, guys. Not freaking one of them has the exact same expenses. And why is this really important? Because back to this formula, right, Anna? The first part is our overhead expenses, specific to whose business, Anna?
To their business,
Right.
to nobody else's but theirs.
Okay.
And that's the big thing. Some people rent space, some people don't. So someone has to consider that rent, but then other ones don't, which means that margin changes just on where you're housing your stuff.
Totally. Right? And it just goes on and on. So anybody watching this, you can see these lists of expenses. Okay. So what we want you to do, really simple, Anna, right? Print off your profit and loss statement. Okay. Take this podcast at this stage and right now, I'm serious, guys, we're doing this real time. If you've printed it off, and you're sitting watching, on the rewind, this podcast, pause, look at your operating expenses and write down that number. Right, Anna?
Yep.
Okay.
It's easy as that.
It's as easy as that. Okay. So step 1, we've gathered the operating expenses. In this case, the total expenses, okay, is $250,000 right here. Okay. So now we look at this, price for profits calculator. We're using the 250,000. Now what's the next number, Anna?
Your estimated annual sales.
Exactly. Now, when we talk about estimated annual sales, I'm going to say this might be a bit of a clarification. And what do I mean by this? You have to, guys, at this stage, why is it estimated, Anna? Why are we using this estimate? We'd be estimating in this case what our total sales is going to be for 2023, even though they haven't happened. So why are we doing that?
We may get more jobs, we may get less jobs. It all depends on how you price and how many bids you put on the table.
Right. And with that being said, we have to start off with a number, guys. Okay. In other words, you have to have a baseline. Now, one of the best places to get a baseline of your sales is looking, what, Anna?
What you did last year.
Right, guys. So you look at what you did last year. Okay. Let's not overcomplicate this. Maybe this business, okay, wasn't $1 million business. Maybe this business actually was an $800,000 business. And the owner of this contracting company said, well, I think I'm going to be able to increase my sales by $200,000. And we go, well, why do you think that? And you go, well, because I'm going to put more marketing spend. We're starting to offer this new service. Those types of things would make that contractor go, hey, that's an example of maybe, I might be able to increase my sales doing that. Or, hey, I know, guys, that I've got this client that's an A-grade client from last year. He built this many houses. We're doing all of his electrical work or plumbing or drywall. And they've actually increased the amount of builds that they're forecasting. And that's going to increase my sales. But regardless, everybody, this is why even this part of the discussion is very specific to your business. So take a look, print off your P&L from the last 12 months. Okay. You could, if you want to do a clean cut, you could do last year or you could do up to now, but regardless, get a gauge of what happened in 12-month period and ask yourself, do I think it's going to be the same thing, more or less? Pick that number. Okay. Back to estimated. And now we're going to use it to start pricing or determining our break-even margin. So in this case, we looked at this company and in the past, right? 2022, love it. It was $1 million. So this contractor's going, I'm estimating I'm going to do basically the same as I did last year. Right, Anna?
Yep.
Beautiful. Okay. So it's $1 million. So you take your P&L, go to your total revenue, right? Determine what your estimated sales is going to be. In this case, is $1 million. Now, what do? We take the 250 divided by a million, it equals 25%. So explain this 25%, Anna. Like, what's that really telling us?
It's telling us for every $1 million that we make, 25% of that $1 million is going to go to these operating overhead costs. And we're using, and I just want to clear something up, we're using the word operating and overhead. They mean the same thing, guys.
Okay.
In accounting, we can say operating or overhead, but they mean the same thing, just so we don't confuse you.
Totally. Love it. And guys, look, let's put this into practical terms. So let's reverse engineer the math. And it's like, oh shit, Andrew, you guys are going to lose me. I'm not going to lose you. Promise you. Okay. Anna, what's 25% of $1 million?
250,000.
Son of a bitch. And what do we have down here? Total expenses? 250,000. So guys, that's where we're getting this from. Okay. So if you don't account for that, okay, what this means is if you go and price a job, if you did $1 million in sales and you use a 25% break-even margin, you would cover enough, you'd bring in enough money, not just sales, but profit, to pay for these expenses. But guess what? You would end up with how much, Anna?
Zero.
So this is why it's called your break even, guys. Break even is, it's zero. You're breaking even. We cool, Anna?
We're cool. We're not in the red and we're not the black. We're in the gray.
That's right. Okay. You do not want to do that. But guys, I'm telling you, if you figure this out, so let's just use an example. You go and say to yourself, write down your sticky note, how much do you put on your jobs? And let's say you were this contractor and you were doing $1 million and you're like, holy shit, my numbers are very similar to this. And you went, oh, well, I'm putting about, 25 or 30% on my jobs. Okay. And you're wondering, where's all your freaking money gone? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, your money's gone in paying these expenses. That's it. Because you haven't taken them into consideration. You're not making 25 or 30 points. Okay. You're making, that profit to pay those expenses and you're ending up with basically nothing in your hand. Okay. So pay close attention. Now we're going to move into the next part. Step 2, determine your break-even profit margin. Okay. Now I call it break-even profit margin, guys, because this is like setting a target, which we're going to talk about. Anna's going to explain in a second. So that it's like, this is the minimum that we got to put on our jobs to make the kind of profit that we want. Taking into account our break-even margin. Okay. So what we do here, Anna, we take annual overhead expenses plus desired profit. What's that mean?
That is how much we want to make at the end of the year.
Right.
How much we want in that bank account.
Beautiful. So in this case, this contractor wanted to do the same thing as he did last year. He wanted to make $100,000 in net profit. That means after all these expenses, everything's been paid, he ends up in the hand. Okay. And after he's paid, this is including him paying himself a salary, right, Anna?
Of course. You got to pay yourself.
Totally. Okay. Too many contractors, guys, you don't even pay yourself. Okay. You've got to account for your salary and that, a certain amount that you're paying yourself, beyond just setting this $100,000 target. Why is that important, Anna?
Because we need to live. And if we're not being able to pay our own personal expenses and are paying ourselves a salary, you're going to be stressing yourself out going, why am I not making money to draw a salary? You got to put it in the numbers. You got to account for it so it can happen. If you don't account for it, it's not going to happen. Bingo.
All right. I love it. Great explanation. So in this case, this contractor added $100K to the 250, okay, from the previous example. Okay, guys. And now it's basically 250 plus 100. So 350,000 divided by 1 million is what?
35%.
Right. So if this person puts on 35% on their jobs, they're going to, at $1 million, they're going to be making $100,000 as well as paying themselves a salary, correct?
Correct.
Why is it so critical? Like, let's just emphasize, Anna, why is it so critical to get this right?
When you don't get this number right, that 35%, if you don't get that 35% on job A, job B, if you get 35%, you're still down on the previous job, which means now you're trying to catch up to cover that 25% expense plus that desired profit. So now we're trying to catch up. And we all know how hard it is to catch up in our personal lives if we get behind on a bill. Now you're dealing with bigger dollar signs trying to catch up.
Totally. So we're going to wrap this up in the next 5 minutes or so. Okay. This is again part 1. So this is figuring out, today's podcast was to figure out our break-even margin, figure out our break-even profit margin. Then on the next call, we're going to, next part 2, we're going to talk about the effects of getting this wrong. From seriously, guys, and I'm not shitting you. If you're off by even 5 or 10% on this, it can literally be costing you having to do hundreds of thousands of dollars of extra sales and actually not make any money, actually lose money. If you've ever wondered, where's all my money going? If you've ever wondered, like, why is it I'm doing this work? I'm busier than ever. I've got more sales than ever, and yet my bank account isn't representative of that. It's actually going down and down and down, or it's a roller coaster. You definitely want to listen to part 2 of this. All right. But before we wrap this up, here's what I want to say. Okay. So Anna, this is for an overall perspective.
Correct.
Right. Now, one of the key things that we do, Profit Contractors, with our champion CEOs, is one of our goals is to start off with this overall break-even margin and profit break-even. Okay. But what's the next, what am I referring to, Anna? I'll let you talk to this. What am I referring to as far as overall versus,
Now what we need to do is break it down by product or service that we're offering, because the profit that you want to make may be on one product to another product. You have more of a cushion or ability to make a larger product. So you might have a service that you can actually make a 20% profit on, where something is a little bit more price sensitive and you can only make 10%. So now you're looking at applying it to those different products or services so that you can make each line or each product optimize it instead of being it very blanket.
Beautiful. Okay, so this blanket approach, just to be clear, is to give you an indicator of whether or not you're way off, okay, or you're somewhat in the right range, okay? So picture this like almost like a guide, in the sense that you're driving down the road. Am I heading in the right direction overall? So I'm trying to get from this city to the next city, let's just say. Am I supposed to be heading north? No, you're heading south. Oh shit. Okay. Let's get back to heading north. Okay. So this is an overall perspective to go, am I going in the right direction? Okay. The next phase of this is getting down to, okay, now that I'm getting closer to my destination, do I got to take a left-hand turn or right-hand turn, like down to the details, which is really going to get you to, to where it is more specifically where you want to be regarding your different products and services. Okay. So Anna, somebody does service calls. Why would doing service calls versus doing large construction work, same company, why would it be different as far as their break-even margin and profit break-even margin?
Price sensitivity is a big one on a service call versus a big contractor call. Especially when you're doing a big contracting call, you might have a bigger margin compared to your smaller service guys. You're also going to look at a little bit in competition when you're looking at those profit sensibilities. You do have to sometimes consider the competition here, because you don't want to sit here and apply a 20% markup on your service when that's going to really take you out of out of the game for that particular service, where you could still manage that 10% profit line and still maintain and gain those sales and generate that revenue, because you can't close it down.
I love that. Now, I'm going to flip that though. Okay. How does figuring this out specific to service relate to using different expenses? Using, like, why would somebody have a break even different for doing service calls than the break even for doing construction work? Why would that be different?
There you're looking at some of those operating expenses proportion. You might not be using as many different operating services for those different types of contracts.
You nailed it. Okay, guys, listening. Okay, as a contractor, I know, let's just say that we're dealing with, a contractor that does service work and they do big projects. Guys, and I know, you might have one service truck that's being leased. On the construction projects, you might have 10 trucks that are being leased. Just that in itself is very different expenses. You might have one salary person, to run the service department. You might have 4 or 5 salaried people in the office, for the field that are on salary for these big construction projects. Guys, put it this way. If the expenses are different for a different product and service, your break-even margin is going to be different. Because guess what else is different? Is the sales going to be different, Anna?
Yes.
100%. But is the formulas that we just covered, Anna, are they different?
No, it's not.
So look, guys, and here's where a lot of people go wrong. Okay. The number one, they don't even do the overall. And then the ones that do the overall, they don't get down to the specifics. And guys, the importance of the specifics, and I said, flipping what Anna said earlier, I'm going to tell you right now, there are tons of contractors that come to us. Okay. And they bitch and complain that they're not making enough profit. They don't know why their bank account's not going up. It's like a freaking roller coaster. The more sales I get, it seems to be the worse that it gets. Well, I'm going to give you an example. When I say on previous podcasts that less is more, I'm fucking meaning it. Okay. Everybody listen in on this. How many contractors have we come across, Anna, where they're doing 3 or 4 different products and services? And when we get down to this level of breaking out the profitability per different service, we find out that one of the products that they're offering and providing is not only not making any money, it's losing tons of money. And then when they go and we figure out that there's not really, in order for them to make money on this, there'd be, none of their clients would actually support that pricing, we get rid of it. And you might be listening going, what? I'm like, guys, listen, if you got $1 million contractor and the guy's got 4 different products and services, and one of those products and services is losing 10, 15, 20%, and the other ones are profitable, literally you can get rid of one of those services, the one that's not making any money, and instantly you're going to actually be way more profitable with way less sales. Am I right, Anna?
Yeah.
Right.
It's basic. We see so many people that do, and they're like, but this is where I get all my work from. And it's like, but you're not pricing it right.
Right, guys. So if you don't know this, if you don't follow through listen, if you want to get some help on this, okay, guys, just raise your hand, say, I don't know, make more profits, or, I'm interested, we can have a call with one of our strategists. Maybe you're going to get lucky and get me. Maybe you might not be lucky, because I'm pretty much just a bit of a hard ass on those calls to help you guys out and holding you accountable to being a successful business owner. But look, the reality is you've got to do these things, okay? If you want to be successful, and one of the definitions of a successful contractor is being profitable, you cannot just stop at what we covered off today, okay? You need help, okay? And whether that's through your admin or, through Anna here at PFC or our team or some place, you've got to break down your profitability per product and service. And what's one of the greatest, wrapping up this podcast here, what's one of the greatest dangers of not doing it to that level?
You're just continuing down that black hole and you're not getting out. And now you're looking at closing up your business. But you're closing up a business with debt that you can't walk away from. And you're just going to be hammering and trying to pay off debt for something that didn't work.
I love it. When
you have the information, we have the information, everyone. The information's there. You just have to utilize it.
It's so well said. Is there anybody that can't learn this, Anna? Honestly.
No, it's basic math. It's not difficult math. Everyone hates math and everyone think, oh my God, accounting numbers horrible. It's basic math. It's just adding up the numbers and then just going with what the numbers don't lie.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, right? So many of our contractors that come to us, they become champion CEOs. they're all great people. Okay. They're all super hardworking. And I really believe 95%, if not more, contractors out there, I really believe in you guys. Okay. I know you can learn this. I know you can apply it. And I know you don't need to do this alone. Okay. It's not your fault prior to today that you didn't know this, but now that you know it, you got to do something with it. Otherwise, you're going to get what I call is ignorance tax. Okay. That means you're going to keep getting that ignorance tax applied over and over and over. Okay. Until you learn it, hopefully quick, or you learn it the hard way, which is in a lot of cases going out of business, or even worse. Going out of business is actually better than what I'm about to tell you. The worst is doing this for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. If you had applied this, you could have been a multimillionaire, having a great life, super happy. So don't be ignorant. Don't get the ignorance tax. Apply these things. You want to get the pricing for profits calculator? Guys, we'll put a link there. You can get this, apply it, use this as a training grounds to move your business forward. And I guess my last little piece of advice, back to what you were saying, Anna, is so many contractors come to us. And this awareness of this data, back to making data-driven decisions, it's an absolute game changer for their business and for their life. Am I right, Anna?
It is. To look at anything, you're using data for pricing, whether to expand, to whether to purchase something versus leasing something. Data will tell you what you can and cannot handle and bear.
Totally. All right, Anna, thank you so much for this awesome podcast. You did great. I know sometimes we get guests on here and they're a little bit nervous. You did absolutely awesome. Everybody that listens in on this, please give a big high five to Anna for taking the time to do this. We're going to do part 2 right after this. And we're going to go deep into leveraging what we learned today and applying it to, the aspects of, the impact, positively and negatively, of using this data to make more data-driven decisions and the effects if you don't. Cool?
It sounds great.
All right, guys, we'll see you in the flip later.
Have a great day.
Ciao. Bye.
Hey, rock stars, thank you for watching the No Bullshit Podcast for Contractors. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button. And if you're serious about growing and need help, click on the link below. Myself and my team would love to help and give you the necessary tools so you can take your contracting business to the next level. And remember, dominate, delegate, and deliver.